Hello again, and welcome. And this is another video. This time I'm leaving Baja de Los Angeles. I actually didn't leave that early in the morning. I had a look a little bit around the town of Baja de Los Angeles because I arrived there the night before. So I spent some time having a look around, and as you can see, the riding was pretty spectacular. Leaving Mulegé. Probably the first hour was just all like this, you know. I planned on riding around about 6 to 7 hours, but I think I ended up going around about nearly 9 hours because I stopped so many times. It's pretty desolate, but just with the mountains and all that, it's just beautiful to watch, you know. And yeah, it was quite spectacular. Baja de Los Angeles is a very small little resort, sort of little fishing village type thing. Very small, and I was lucky enough to get that's the hotel I stayed at. It was very basic, but it was fine, and there was a couple of dirt riders staying in the cabin next to me. Just went down the street for some street food and went from there. The roads were really good. They're all these narrow type roads, so you know the trucks can be a bit of an issue. You just got to hang on tight when you go past them. Some of them are, you know, give you a bit of a knock around, and others are fine, you know. But the whole Baja is a little bit like this. It's a pretty desolate sort of place. There are some mountains and all that, but it is a pretty desolate place. And basically, the main roads are the only roads to connect to the cities, and like there's big distances between each one, and it's you know, it can be you know, it takes a fair bit of concentration to go these long distances without actually seeing any towns or any people, but it's fine. I mean, you get used to it, and you have to, because when you get further down south in South America, you're going massive distances on tough roads where you hardly see anybody. But you do get these little things coming up from time to time. It's just like, there's no warning sometimes where it just says, they just put the cones on the road to say that this is actually Baja de Los Angeles. This is in the morning, and it's yeah, it's a pretty little town. There wasn't anything there though. Maybe 10, 20 homes. It looked like there was a thing along in the town that looked like they were building something a while ago, but it abandoned it, like a big hotel or something. But it had been abandoned. Yeah, so this is the second last riding day before I got to La Paz. Get to La Paz, and it was a pretty long ass morning. But then once I got into the national parks, things started getting a lot more interesting with the mountains and the views and stuff like that. So I actually really enjoyed today. It was a really good fun day. And you'll see every time I reach across, that's Baja de Los Angeles too. But every time I reach across, I'm pressing a button on my the Drift Ghost camera, and that's the camera I used mainly because the GoPro just stands out so much, you know, and you look like a bit of a knob. And plus, people don't really like being filmed without their consent. And I think if you've got that camera on, they're always looking at you thinking, are you filming me right now? But with the Drift, it sort of sits low profile on the side of the helmet. People don't really notice it, and it's especially useful when you want to do video footage of border crossings and things like that, because you can get in trouble if you're shooting. And the other good thing is when it's recording, it flashes red, so I just say, oh, it's off, see, red, you know. Yeah, so with the Drift Ghost, you've got, it's really clear, and you know, because I need reading glasses, sometimes I can't read what's on the screen, but there's, you know, if it's if it's green, that means you're in video mode. If it's red, it means that if it's flashing red, it means it's you're in video mode and you're shooting, and it's really bright and quite big. And then if it's yellow, it's in photo mode, so widescreen photo mode. Then if it's blue, it's in burst mode. If it's purple, it takes a photo, whatever you've got settings, like every 10 seconds, every 5 seconds, every 3 seconds or whatever. This is a typical little town along the way. Sometimes you get pulled over in these towns, but the one thing you've got to be careful of through all these towns are the speed humps, because sometimes they're little strips like that, and sometimes they're big, massive things that you could pretty much come off your bike with. It seems like maybe the locals actually build their own in some cases, but yeah. So the drift camera is a really, really good camera for this type of thing, and they're about to make a new version, and I really do hope that they, with the 4K version, is they also concentrate on the lower resolutions, because that's what I would shoot in anyway. I just want faster frame rates. That's about all, and a better image sensor. That's pretty much all I'd ask for from them. And it's a pity, because they really don't market to the people they should be marketing to. As far as I'm concerned, they should be just marketing the hell out of it to motorbike enthusiasts and snowboarders and skateboarders, and just stick with those and become a hero to those sort of sports activities. But I really like the camera, like the GoPro. Like, as an example, the remote, the batteries last, I was getting about 3 hours in the end. They'll rate them at about 3 to 4 hours, but I was getting about 3 hours per battery. And with the remote control, here's some people riding their bikes. I never get that, and that's just hard yakka stuff. Always say hello. But the remote control, I consistently got 6 hours out of it. The only downside with and it's the same with the GoPro a little bit too, but it seems to be a lot more. It takes about the same time to charge the batteries for the. There's a nice little shot of the bike, pretty much loaded up. You can see I've got the 10 on the back, and then I've got the dry bags on the sides. I talk a little bit about the dry bags as well, but to go back to the batteries, it takes probably 2.5 to 3 hours to charge a battery from the drift, which is a bit ridiculous. Maybe I had the wrong battery charger, or it was a third-party one. But the remote took, maybe to charge the remote to full, maybe 30-45 minutes. So I really liked the remote and really got the hang of it. And just a real simple thing. It's just like a strap on your arm, and it's about twice as big in width as the GoPro remote, but it's very thin. I mean, if they just made it maybe a few mil thicker, they could probably get about 12 hours out of a battery there, if they just double the capacity, because that would be fantastic, having one remote for the whole day, because I ended up having two, and then I lost one, then I'm having one for the day, and then I'd have to put it in the back of the bike if I want to, because most of the big riding days, even if it was only like 300 or 400 kilometres, like 100 and 200 miles say, it was still taking, because when you want to have an adventure and ride, and I was going off the roads when I used to buy maps in each country, and I could see like a dirt road connecting from one highway to another, which just meant a hell of a lot longer to go, but a lot more fun, the scenery here is beautiful. And that's the thing, is that you look at this on the camera and you think, oh, that's pretty nice, but when you're actually there, it's quite freaking daunting. Like, it's not daunting, but it's quite spectacular. It just doesn't, the camera just doesn't bring that across. Another thing you got to watch out for is friggin' cattle. They just seem to drift wherever they want to go. It's me being stupid. But some nice little shots of the road. That's sort of like, I mean, these sort of towns are actually marked on the map, so they're so tiny. This town is San Ignacio, and it's beautiful. Like, it's like a little oasis in the middle of nowhere, basically. It's got a river running through it down below, but it's really quite spectacular. And I actually stopped in there, and I went to a place, I think it was called Rice and Beans, a really colourful bar and some good little food. just had a little bowl of shit and a couple of drinks, and then got on my way. But really cool little place, and it's just one of those things you just happen to happen upon it and think, oh, I'll go in there. So I really did take the time. So talking about the dry bags I got, so they're 100% waterproof. So much so that with my Air Dog drone, I actually took the drone and put it in the bag when I was in La Paz, and actually put the drone in the bag, and then because these subject sports bags, you can actually inflate them so they'll float on the water. So there's just there's padding all on the bottom of it, so you can just. So I used to have it a little bit inflated when I was on the side of my bike, because I had some gear, I had the drone in one of them, and but they're fantastic. The only thing I'd get them to do, and I'm going to do a full review on them later. The only thing I'd get them to do is make a smaller, like a 30 litre. If they could make a 30 litre bag, because then it fits a bit better on a bike. It's just the 45 litre is just a little bit too big for any sort of motorbike. If they could make a 30 litre one, and I've tried plenty of bags on bikes, and these are by far the toughest, hardest wearing. I mean, I put these things through hell. I mean, even in El Salvador, one of the bags came off. I used the rock straps, and I just didn't strap it properly. It's my fault. And one of the bags came off. People were waving at me, and I thought, oh, they were waving at me, but the bag was actually dragging on the ground. It would have been dragging, I reckon, for about 10 or 15 minutes on the bitumen. It scratched it, but still in shape. Still no holes in it, nothing. It's pretty amazing, you know. And so by far, and it's just a big open bag. The zippers, you know, I could actually, when it's fully zipped up, I could actually put it under the water with the drone in it. Not a drop of water got in it. Incredible. And I had days where it pelted down with rain, and it's just good to know it's sitting there, you know, that it's doing its job. So on the back of the bike at the top, I've got the Lone Rider tent, the Lone Rider 2 tent, which I didn't use anywhere near as much as I wanted to, because I just had to work so much. But you know, weekends and stuff like that, I'd camp. Some weekends, I probably, out of 160 days, I think I camped 165, 170 days. I think I only camped about 20 times, 15 times, which is a bit disappointing, but it's a really good tent. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes to set up. It takes longer to pack up. That's the only issue I've got with the bag. Is so tight. It's just like anything. Like when you get a sleeping bag, and the sleep bag's a pain in the backside. So for me to park my bike and find a spot, that usually took me a while. So I'd usually, if I was going to be camping, I'd usually give myself 2 or 3 hours to find a spot. I didn't use any. I used the campgrounds twice, I think, and I just camped solo. The rest of the time, just went up dirt roads and stuff. So I always look for like an area that's on just a slight slope, so it's not at the bottom. If it's near a river, which I like doing, I'll look at a place where, okay, what happens if it rains? Okay, so what happens if it rains? Where's my bike going to be parked? Am I going to be able to get it out? So there's just a few prerequisites, and hopefully you can park it on some sand or something soft. Yeah, so you can set the tent up on something sandy or soft, because there's nothing worse than having a really hard ground underneath it. And I've got a mattress that inflates in a few minutes too. But setting up my campsite would probably take me about 30 minutes by the time, you know, sleep bag and all that. But packing it up, that probably took me about 45 minutes. It became a bit of a drag when I was in a bit of a rush, because like the sleeping bag just wouldn't fit in the thing. The rest of it all folded up pretty nice. But just, yeah, that was the only dampener on camping. But even still quicker than staying in a hotel and then having to go up and down in the lift and pack your bike and all that sort of stuff. And there's nothing worse than staying in a motel. I've stayed in a few hotels with no lifts and going up 3 floors, you know. So you've always got to be pretty wary of that, and you learn as you go along. And I didn't have as many issues as I went along, particularly because I mainly just didn't book stuff and just went into a town and stayed somewhere, usually in a cabana, a local owned. And you know, I had a Wi-Fi testing app. If I had to work, I made sure the Wi-Fi was at least workable, because some of the hotels I stayed in didn't have Wi-Fi's that worked, you know. So yeah, so it's everything's about, you know, you learn it as you go, but it's all about being able to, number one is only taking what you need, not all the, geez, it'd be nice to have this little luxury item or stuff like that. I mean, I had a few of them still even on the end of the trip, like I had a hammock that I used maybe just a handful of times on the whole trip. And you know, it was only about the size, you know, about the size of a, you know, like a toilet bag once it's wrapped up, a toiletries bag. But it was still, you know, when you have 4 or 5 of those sort of things, they start to add up. If I wasn't camping, you know, if I didn't camp, the whole load would be so much lighter. When you include the tent, sleeping bag, inflatable mattress, pillow, the little inflatable pillows, they don't take up much room. And then your cooking gear and stuff like that, which I won't take next time because I just found it so, you know, it took up a whole case. And I used it so rarely. I would have been better off just ditching it, and then if I just needed something, just building a fire and just having one pot. That was all I'd pot and a spoon. Actually, the spoon I had, which is a spork, you know, spoon fork thing, I had like 2 or 3 of them, and I used them everywhere. You know, it's I'm going to do a video on the 10 most used items of the whole trip, and that's one of them, you know. Today was all about getting to Mulegé, and it was probably this is a 360 view. It's 360 camera. That's the sort of food that you can expect to see on your trip. I mean, that's just sensational. Like fish tacos, oh, jeez. You know, they're all so nice to people, and they cost only a few dollars each. I always, if it costs you $2 or $3, give them $5. Always tip the locals. If you're staying in a nice hotel, friggin' just do what you want to do because they're usually overpriced. So about now, this is one of the things about today. I don't know if I've ever done it before, but I started on the Atlantic, went to the Pacific, and then went back to the Atlantic all in the one day. It's pretty cool, I suppose. I didn't think of it at the time until I looked at the map afterwards. But it's so nice. It's so nice to be on roads where you can have a bit of fun around corners. Like, you know, you don't have to take them too sharp, but you can have a little bit of fun around corners. You know, there's not much traffic. I mean, I'm sure during the peak season it's a lot busier, but you know, the whole trip in Baja was really quiet. You know, even into La Paz. La Paz there was some road works and it was a little bit busier. And a little bit of a pain in the ass there because it's quite a big city, but it's a beautiful place, La Paz. I really liked it, and I got real lucky with the hosts for my Airbnb. I can tell you, it was probably the best stay experience of the whole trip. Really good guy. Yeah. So some of the other things that I had on the bike on this trip, you can see just that little orange thing on my shoulder. It's called a spot tracker. And I used it at first to track my ride, and then I'd go on there and download the GPX. But then I found out, well, River's doing the same thing, so it's pointless doing that. But just basically, it's a really good thing to have. So at the end of your trip for the day, you can just press a button on it to say you're okay, and you can automatically program in via their website who gets that message to say, hey, I've arrived safe and well. So I didn't have to, you know, my parents are always worried when I'm on a bike and stuff like that. That was not a person. Yeah, I think I'm coming up to a military checkpoint here. And you'll find most of the time these guys are more interested in the trucks and the pickups with loads on them, and they'll just wave you through. I think I'll get waved through here. As I said in the previous videos, if you do get stopped, if they do stop you, take your helmet off. I didn't have any issues. I didn't do it a couple of times and I didn't have any issues, but you want to you show them the respect, you know. They've got a pretty shitty job, you know, all day, every day, just checking through stuff, and you know, they might consider it an important job, and it may well be an important job. But I probably, you know, on a long day's journey like this, probably had 3 or 4 of them for the day. usually in and around towns or outside of towns, but they don't. I mean, they're on the move. Like there's a lot of mobile ones where they've just parked at the side of the road, put a few cones up, you know, so just to surprise some people. But yeah, I never had any issues. You know, I heard other stories and stuff like that, but you know, corruption. But then when I got to La Paz, I spoke to this guy named Leo, and he said no. He said local police, yeah, they can be corrupt, but the military, no, not at all. Which is pretty cool to know that, yeah. They're straight down the line. I'm sure there'd be a percentage like any sort of field. There's always some idiots. Yeah, there's one of those trucks. Usually see what the trucks do. They'll come pull over to the side so you can go past nice and easy. Give them a wave to say thank you, and on your way. I found the truckies on the whole trip were, on the whole, pretty fantastic. You know, had a couple of little issues here and there, but on the whole, truckies were fantastic for me. Here's one of those others. I'm taking photos as I'm going through here, so that's where you see me reaching across to press the button. There's a few little short clips here. But I'm about 3/4 of the way through the journey now. I'm heading towards the Atlantic again. Sometimes you got to know where you're going with these things. So I had that spot messenger on my shoulder, and that's really good. It's a really handy device to let everyone know you're safe and well. What I carry on me on my backpack, in my backpack I'd have all my travel documents. I'd also have some extra cash hidden away. I have a water pack on the back, inside the backpack. It's called a Climb Crew backpack. Fantastic, like the best backpack I've ever had. Seriously, I've had like a lot. If you ever saw my home, I've probably got 20 backpacks here, and they're all packed up, all ready to go for different things that I do. And so I had a light in the backpack. I had a flint lighter, so if I needed to start a fire. I had some waterproof gloves. I had some basic tools. I had like WD-40, a little can of WD-40. I had, I always made sure I had the cable ties, like a couple of small ones and a couple of larger ones, just for quick fixes, so I don't have to go through my gear. You got to keep the backpack pretty light, because otherwise your shoulders and your back will get sore at the end of the day. But I had basically, you know, I had some chewing gum in there, just things that and sometimes some little snacks, especially if I stayed in a hotel where I'd grab and go breakfast, or they had a little buffet or something like that. I'd steal a bit of stuff and put it in there. This is just a stop along the way. I went to a restaurant and had a bite at a little roadside place. The street food in Baja and all of Greater Mexico is just amazing. I've gone on about that a few times before. I didn't have really any problems with animals. Just sometimes I had to stop. You know, there was sheep crossing the road, or cattle crossing the road, or horses, or you know, llamas or whatever. And the ones I can't remember what they're called again now. They're not llamas. They're a protected species, but they're the dangerous ones, because they just go. They're like really nervous animals, and so they see something and they get startled. They just bolt, so they can go anywhere. That would be the ones I'd most be worried about. So here, once I get to this mountain range, well, I think again I ran out of batteries towards the end of it. But this is where I stayed. Mulegé. I didn't have a place to stay. I went across the river there, and where the town is, it's only a little town. I went to a bar and met some guys there, and had a few beers there, and then started looking on the map and went to a few places. Couldn't find something, and then I ended up just stumbling across this one. They had a spare room, and yeah, it was really nice. Sat down and had some dinner, and this is that little Oasis place that we saw a photo of earlier. It's pretty cool. I stopped here as well. I went to a little place called Rice and Beans. It's a little oasis by a river. It's prettier down below. I ended up staying here for a few minutes, I think, and took a couple of photos. So I had my Galaxy S7, and I also had my, which is my main phone for my phone calls and that, the S7 Edge, and then I've got the S7 just for my nav and that. And because they're fast charging, the battery doesn't drain. So with the cigarette lighter charger, it's a fast charger cable. I have the Rever app and the Google Maps app running at the same time, and they don't. They never run out. It's always at 100%. So it's pretty good to have that. And then I've got the Garmin 590L there, and now I'm just talking to myself about where to go next. And the other thing too is if you like, I've got T-Mobile, so when you're in like towns like this, I can actually get with T-Mobile pretty much every country in the world. You get free data up to 4 or 5 gigabytes depending what plan you're on. And the thing about that is you get if you get to a town where they've got mobile phone access, you can usually get access to read your emails or whatever. And so I'm a bit of a, so you can see I'm taking a few photos here side by side. So you do that, and Google will automatically, with the Google Photos, will automatically stitch them together as long as you keep it around the same balance, and you keep one part of the photo in the next photo. Google will actually stitch them all together automatically and do a really nice panorama. It looks prettier than what it actually it's a lot prettier than what it actually looks from there. Here I am deciding to get going again. Now I've got a little white cloth there for my helmet if I ever need to clean the helmet visor off. It usually gets a bit of dust on it, especially early. If you leave early in the morning, it gets a little bit of fog in it, and it gets a little bit wet on the outside. Once the dust hits it, it also sticks to it a little bit. So I usually have a couple of cloths hanging out of my tank bag that I can just pull out and just give myself a wipe. It's always better to have a clear view of what you're doing, where you're going, and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, so what else do I have in my backpack? I'm trying to think. I had an emergency evac unit as well in my actual pants, and I actually learned how to, just in case, it's only a weird wild thing, but I learned how to activate it without actually taking it out of my pocket. I sort of trained myself over a period of time to be able to find it, find where the button is just by feeling it, and press and lift the little flip up. This is why it's inside my pants. It's down near my leg, the back of my leg, and learn how to activate it. So if I ever got into trouble and I needed SOS, you pay for it with these devices. You pay like a certain amount of money per annum, and you can anywhere in the world it will get the local authorities and local services, everything to you immediately, even helicopters, Yeah, so this San Ignacio is a pretty cool place. I think I might have got fuel here. I think I ended up going back again, getting some fuel and having a bit of a break here. Yeah, I did, yeah. So I started working out how far I had to go and how much gas I had left and all that sort of stuff, and I thought, oh well, might as well just go back. I knew I'd probably easily get to Mulegé, but it's always better to just turn around and, I just went for a bit of a ride here. Oh no, I haven't gone through the town yet, so I did stop here for gas. But I think I did turn around though. I think I ended up going a bit further on. And you learn after a while that you're just better off, even if you've got half a tank of gas and you think you're going to make it easy, it's always better just to fill her up. Have a bit of a break. I love the hotel names and stuff like that people come up with for all these places. Like Sea Breeze and and they're all in terrible locations, you know. It's the same with housing developments and stuff like that. They're usually pretty terrible. There was one place that I went to on the way down here that I'd already booked on Airbnb, and Airbnb shunted the guy off. He just lied about everything about the place, and it was basically in a housing development, and it didn't have internet access that he said it had. The TV didn't work, and it was like no one lived in this whole housing development. The guy's just renting them out on Airbnb and just trying to shark people out of their money, you know. There's a lot of little interesting tracks and all that all the way along that pretty much go nowhere, most of them. I rode up a few of them, and they pretty much, unless it's going to the beach, it's not worth really going up them. Yeah, so by the end of this trip, I think this is like about 2 p.m. now, so I had a fair bit of time up my sleeve, and I ended up staying at a pretty nice place. I think I've got some photos coming up of where I stayed, but it was nice. It was a nice spot, and I enjoyed it, and then I got on my way. I think I got on my way relatively early, because some of the places, if you always ask, can you park your motorbike right in front? So if you know you can get your bike there, most of them are just going to say, yeah, no worries. You know, a lot of them are probably used to bikers and stuff like that, and everyone wants to protect their bike and gear. I never left any of my gear on my bike though. There might have been gear in my side cases if it was one night, but if it was more than one night, I'd take the side cases off, or I'd take the bags out of the side cases. Just not worth it. And if you do have side cases and you do empty them, leave them open. Because if, like, not open, but leave them so they're not locked, so people can open them and see that there's nothing in them, because you're better off having that than somebody smashing it up and finding there's nothing in there. So that's just another little hint along the way. And now we're coming up to the end of the video, and I've got a couple of shots of where I ended up staying, because the video ran out again. I only had 2 batteries, and so that only lasted me 6-7 hours. That's a little airport along the way, and I looked it up and I thought, who would go on that? Who would land on that thing? In the last video, and into some of that. So this is the place I stayed, and that was on the right side of it. There was a river in front of it. These are a really nice couple I met, and I think the last one's the entrance to it. Pretty nice place. I rode my bike all the way through. Anyway, thanks very much, guys. Questions and comments below.